Traces of human occupation dating back to the Neolithical period have been found in Saint-Nazaire, including a magnificent axe found within the commune. The archaeological record is even richer for the Gallo-Roman period, including the vestige of nymphaeum found in the basement of the presbytere. This suggests that the medieval church was built on top of an ancient site. Thus, the village of Saint-Nazaire may be one of the oldest settlements in the Gard. It is located on the Roman Via Alba, the road to Alba, the Helvian capital, formerly known as Apps. The town in the Ardèche region now carries the name of Alba la Romaine for cultural and tourist marketing reasons. The settlement at Saint-Nazaire benefited for the traffic on the major road and for cultivation of the surrounding plains, drained and enhanced by the Gallo-Romans. The local landscape has been shaped by human activity over millennia, something which we often forget. By the 13th century, the already well-established village is set in the heart of a territory developed over centuries by its former inhabitants. Whilst the rich vineyard landscape of the plains were largely moulded by the Romans, masters of the art of territorial development, the open fields of the slopes date from the medieval period. This space was brought under cultivation in response to demographic changes. The plains around Saint-Nazaire were drained in ancient times by the inhabitants of a few villages. By the Middle Ages, more agricultural land was needed to feed the town's growing population of 150 to 250 individuals. The hillside, previously used to pasture sheep, was given over to more intense cultivation, as were the valley bottoms, where rich earth had built up over time. Artificial terraces were entirely created by moving large quantities of earth, a practice which continued up until the mid-19th century. The origins of the village itself are uncertain, a common problem for historians. It is very rare to be able to give a specific date for the foundation of a settlement. The presence of the manor house indicates that there was a village on this site during the Middle Ages. Although little else is known about the medieval village, it may have been built as part of the medieval fort complex, or as a completely new settlement, as in the case of Saint-Laurent-la-Vernède, where a fortified village was rebuilt next to the older village, reusing some of the original materials. The village fort was created during the second half of the 14th century, as in many other villages in the area and along both banks of the Rhône. Traces of this can be seen in the street plan, and the base of one of the 4 round towers set into the walls is still visible on old photographs. After the 100-Year War and the plague epidemics of the 14th and 15th centuries came the War of Religion. The population of Saint-Nazaire clearly recognised the need for protection and the value of solid ramparts. The village was subject to further difficulties in the 17th century, with increased fiscal pressure, a 4-fold rise in taxes during the first half of the century, resulting in a number of peasants' revolts which were put down by force. However, the economy of Saint-Nazaire continued to profit from the village's advantageous position along a busy road, as we see from the existence of a hostelry in the village over the course of the 17th century, despite the fact that much of the traffic towards Marseille or Beauclerc was waterborne travelling down the Rhône. Following the climatic disasters of the late 17th and early 18th centuries, notably the Great Winter of 1709, which was particularly harsh all over Europe, the second half of the 18th century saw an increase in the population of Saint-Nazaire, stimulated by improvements to the road and by economic development. This trend continued until the middle of the next century, with the emerging of heavy industry and the building of railways in the region. Saint-Nazaire was not immune to the rural exodus, which affected every village in the country to a greater or lesser extent from the 1860s onwards. The lowest population levels were reached in 1926, at which point the inhabitants of France were split equally between urban and rural settlements. The first 5-year plan for nuclear investment, launched in 1951 by Secretary of State Félix Gallard, led to the construction of a plutonium production site in the Marcoule, near Saint-Nazaire, in 1956. The population of the village tripled in the space of a few years, reaching 900 in 1956. Saint-Nazaire took on a more modern aspect while retaining its vineyards and its essential rural character. Whilst the busy road, a Royal Imperial, then national thoroughfare, distracts somewhat from the peace of the commune, the construction of a bypass should resolve the issue, marking the start of a new era for Saint-Nazaire, its destiny shaped by its inhabitants.